Well, he must have acquired English, right? Because you said he could have conversations with people speaking to him in English.
That's true.
So he did have, so he acquired English in some sense.
He just wouldn't, I don't know if he wouldn't, and he's almost a teenager now, he can't even remember those, there's really no way of knowing
Yeah.
whether he could.
Did they record it at all or anything like that?
Yeah, there's videos and stuff of him having conversations and talking, he's
Oh, are they on YouTube?
I could probably find one for you though.
It would be neat to look at.
Some personal experience I had a number of years ago when I worked with special education. There were a number of students in there who actually had really limited linguistic ability, including a couple of people that would not be able to speak, or at least how we understand it, like a very young toddler would. So a lot of noises, maybe 50 words, 40 words, you could barely understand. And one of the things I ran into is how closely people would assume that related to intellectual ability. Like in one case, one guy I worked with, name was Ryan, and as I said, his language was severely limited, so they assumed his intellectual capability would never exceed that of a 3 or 4-year-old. And it threw everybody for a loop when he started expressing more complex ideas that you would think of an older child, 7, 8, 9 would, which was a lot of fun because he would sometimes come up with his own words for things, so it was kind of really fun working with him. He had one of those speech synthesizer with him. And I got in a lot of trouble with programming things into that one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, bad cop no donut is something I should have never programmed. He thought the joke was hilarious. It doesn't help when you pass an actual state trooper and he keeps hitting a button. But yeah, it was really interesting. Since I hadn't worked with anybody ever before, we assumed certain language ability equals a certain intellectual ability, and then there was just these instances where it had very little correlation. What you would assume it was just, when we were talking about language here, it just kind of sparked that memory of that.
So you were going to make a point though about intelligence.
Yeah. Basically, one of the things was. As he went through the system, I didn't know everything because I wasn't privy to every little detail, but they assumed that he would never have an intellectual capability like a 3 or 4-year-old. Because, largely because of his, lack of being able to use language. And then he started to demonstrate more and more, and it was just kind of, frazzling people because, he started to act like an 8 or 9-year-old. Obviously, he had, severe intellectual disabilities, but they never would give him credit past a certain point. And then he just started demonstrating more and more. He just lacked the agency, the language for it, until he was really given an opportunity with speech synthesizers. And then he was just expressing things that nobody thought he even understood. I mean, I'm not saying he was having adult conversations, but, understanding more complex social situations, emotions to express. And it just threw everybody for such a loop that they just wouldn't believe it, at first, because he, naturally, lacked the ability to really speak well, So.
Yeah, there's a lot to do with that. Did other people want to respond? I think it raises an interesting question about intelligence. That intelligence can seem, in this example, it can seem to develop somewhat autonomously. And then there's something about language that if it can't be expressed, we don't think it's there. But then once the linguistic pathway opens, we see something happening that it's sort of the black box issue with the neural nets, right? There's something happening there. We just don't understand what it is.
Language is inherently tied to intelligence. We have this human chauvinism that because we have language, it is the hallmark of intelligence. And it's all the way through everything we've studied. The Turing test, the test of intelligence, is based on language. The Chinese room experiment is based on language. The book is based on language. It's this hallmark of intelligence. It is what humans perceive, and the way we judge someone when we meet them. We talk to them, and we make an assumption about their intelligence by talking to them. It's their language. Or we read something they've written. It's language. It's how we judge people. Our measure of intelligence is language.
There's a sentence in Lacanian psychoanalysis, it's the one that Lacan was fond of saying apparently, that the unconscious is structured like a language. Okay? And I'm not sure I know what this means. So some people think they understand this expression. But for me, it's always been a little bit of a mystery to explain this. But I do think that the nature of our unconscious, of our personal unconscious, you know, where do things go when we forget them? And how is it possible that we can retrieve them? It could be that sentence in some ways might mean something like this, in part, that our unconscious is an effect or a consequence of our speech. So one reason why I started the course with that little clip from AI is because I knew we would have kind of the conversations that we've been having about this issue in this way throughout the semester. And so what I thought I'd do, because it'll also, I think, help you to think about Galileo 2.2 while you're working on your papers, if we see the ending of this movie, where the little robot boy, David, I think that's his name, he's discovered by more advanced robot beings, many thousand years into the future. And his teddy bear has kept just a strand of hair from his mother. So the robots are looking at this young robot boy that they found thousands of years after the world has reconfigured itself. And they find a way to clone his mother, but she can only be with him for one day, okay? And so I want to see if I can get to the right place on the tape. It's not a tape, it's a DVD. It's just telling you how old I am. Let me see where, I might have to advance here a little bit. But in part what I think this clip will demonstrate is the way in which hearing the speech of another changes the subjectivity of the person that these words are spoken to.
It changes both. It changes the subjectivity and the objectivity, because it changes you as an object, surely.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't
The
have
objective self is changed as well as the subjective relation with the other.
Right, I'm not using the subject and object in that sense. So let me see if we're in the right place. I might have to fiddle with it a little bit. Oops, volume. Sure where I am here. Yeah, let me back it up just a. Okay, this is when he's found. So these are the advanced robot beings, I guess, or machine
Well, we never know whether they're
implementations. Okay, I'll defer to you on that. See, that's why there's that sense of wholeness and fragmentation that these deliberately meant to look like neurons?
I don't see why they have to touch each other to pass data. That seems amazingly inefficient. Considering we have wireless.
Okay. But you have this sense of replication going on. We talk about these moments of calling and turning. There's a theory where we talk about interpolation, and that the subject is constituted in the turning in reply to the call of the name.
So the subject is defined by the calling.
Mm-hmm. The subject is even constituted in that calling, in that being hailed.
You have been searching for me, haven't you, David?
My whole life.
And what, after all this time, have you come to ask me?
I had a wish to make.
And what is your wish?
Please make me a real boy, so my mommy will love me and let me stay with her.
David, I will do anything that is possible, but I cannot make you a real boy.
Where am I? This looks like my house, but it is different.
Yes, it is different, but it's also your home. We read your mind, and it's all here. There's nothing too small that you didn't store for us to remember. We so want you to be happy. You are so important to us, David. You are unique in all the world.
Will mommy be coming home soon? Is she out shopping with Martin now?
David, she can never come home because 2,000 years have passed and she is no longer living. Dearest David, when you're lonely, we can bring back other people from your time in the past.
You can bring back other people. Why can't you bring back her?
Because we can only bring back people whose bodies we dig up from the ice. We need some physical sample of the person, like a bone or a fingernail.
David,
Yes, Daddy.
do you remember when you cut some of Mommy's hair
Henry showed me.
and stopped her hair.
Now you can bring her back. Can't you?
Give him what he wants.
Dearest David, your wish is my command.
Hey, Joe, what do you know?
David, I often felt a sort of envy of human beings, of that thing they called spirit. Human beings have created a million explanations of the meaning of life in art, in poetry, mathematical formulas. Certainly human beings must be the key to the meaning of existence, but human beings no longer existed. So, we began a project that would make it possible to recreate the living body of a person long dead from the DNA in a fragment of bone or mummified skin. We also wondered, would it be possible to retrieve a memory trace in resonance with a recreated body? And you know what we found? We found the very fabric of space-time itself appeared to store information about every event which had ever occurred in the past. But the experiment was a failure. For those who were resurrected only lived through a single day of renewed life. When the resurrectees fell asleep on the night of their first new day, they died again. As soon as they became unconscious, their very existence faded away into darkness. So you see, David, the equations have shown that once an individual space-time pathway had been used, it could not be reused. If we bring your mother back now, it will only be for one day, and then you will never be able to see her again.
Maybe she will be special. Maybe she will stay.
I thought this would be hard for you to understand. You were created to be so young.
Maybe the one day will be like that one day inside the amphibicopter. Maybe it will last forever.
David, you are the enduring memory of the human race. The most lasting proof of their genius. We only want for your happiness. David, you've had so little of that.
If you want for my happiness, then you know what you have to do.
Listen. Can you hear that? The new morning
in Freudian terminology, this is both a scene and a fantasy. And I might come back to that language in a little while.
We've got 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. So because time is slipping, I'll move it forward, but I wanted you to understand the scenario here. He'll spend the day with his mother, obviously. So what we have at this moment is that reformation of the mirror stage in Lacanian terminology, and then we have the movement into language with speech, the staring in the eyes, the mirroring, so.
I must have dozed off. I long never
Would you like some coffee? Just leave it like it.
Yeah, I love a coffee. It'll wake me up.
So I hate to interrupt a good thing, but because of time, I'm going to advance it. A lot of you have probably seen this too, so let me just move it forward a bit.
Waiting for. And the moment had passed.
Yep.
From what
Sorry, I overshot.
there was no Henry. There was no Martin.
So there's this kind of exclusive fantasy realization. It's just David and his mother.
David had been warned not to explain anything to Monica, otherwise she would become frightened and everything would be spoiled. But David's journey home belonged only to him, so he didn't see the harm of painting her pictures of things she would have no memory of.
So there's a repetition of these hide-and-seek games and so on. Playing around with presence and absence allusions to E.T.
Because David had never been born, so they baked a cake and lit some candles.
Now make a wish. It came true already.
By now, indeed, the windows were beginning to dim. David drew the shades without even needing to be asked.
I really ought to be tucking you in. Strange. How fascinating. I can hardly keep my eyes open. Don't know what's going on me. Such a beautiful day. I love you. I do love you. I have always loved you.
That was the everlasting moment he had been waiting for. And the moment had passed, for Monica was sound asleep. More than nearly asleep. Should he shake her, she would never rouse. So David went to sleep too. And for the first time in his life, he went to that place where dreams are born.
Swelling music, tears, all that. So, how am I doing on time? Are we
Nearly out of time.
nearly out of time? So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to present this as an alternative ending to Galatea 2.2. Okay? Because Helen, I don't want to ruin it for you yet if you haven't finished it. Helen, in a way, is going to opt out, right? And she's not going to say no thanks, right?
She learned to say no.
Yeah, here, however, David, he wants to be human, right? And so I don't know if the fact that he dreams is what makes him human. I don't know if the narrative seems to, in terms of the story itself.
We had that conversation the other day.
Oh, we did?
That's dreaming.
Here? I don't know.
No, in your office we were talking.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm
We were
talking
talking about the neural nets dreaming.
Yeah. And so what I see, what you just can see here is kind of an alternative way to end the story about the test that of can we create a neural net that can pass the master's comprehensive exam in English. What I like about this, apart from all of its sentimentality, what I like about it is that it seems that the unconscious of the robot child is constituted, and perhaps his humanity is constituted in having heard the words from the person it thinks of as he thinks of as his mother, right? Affirming him in his existence at the very moment that existence is in question, at that moment of death and annihilation. So that what seems to be being suggested here is that it's awareness, it's self-consciousness of finitude, and in a moment of affirmation that constitutes the human, right? And that experience may not be exclusively restricted for what you and I have known to be humans as biologically constituted beings. Okay? So, and we can talk about that as we go, or you can write about it in your papers. Or...
Well, that certainly changed the ending of the movie for me now.
Oh, it did?
If I watch that again, I'll see it in a different way again.
Yeah. You didn't think that was what was happening at the end?
I didn't think about it that deeply.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't think of it.
Yeah.
I did see the thing that, how important the mother was to him, and it sort of got it, no.
Mm-hmm. It's his having actually heard his mother say those words, and then his own ability to respond.
So with these advances of us, we're able to trace all human memory and knowledge back to just sort of the edge of space and time. What is stopping them from, well, not only trying to sort of perfect the science, which if they're able to recreate a person with their memories, would they not be able to recreate the same person day after day after day and have them have the same memory of the previous day of having been alive and then fallen into unconsciousness and died because it ripples into space-time rather than being a biological construct? And also, what's stopping them from taking this collective memory of everything that's never existed and just creating replications of people previously existed?
No, they're all in a magic space juice, so they can't make more people with that.
They can make
You explained it as good as possible, I thought. They use it as magic space pathways or whatever.
I think that movie you're describing is Groundhog Day.
I just think you have to accept the terms of the thought experiment of this particular fairy tale. Right. Fairy tale. And it is a fairy tale. It's a retelling of several different fairy tales. So you have, in terms of